But I have to say that, of course, it would have been great to have JDT here.
Hello, Coach.
Hello.
Okay, how do you see the overall journey of Supermokh Cup for this year?
Yeah, I have to see that so far we are really happy. I think the kids, the staff, the parents are all enjoying. It has been a long moment of preparation to achieve that, and I see beautiful football every day. I see kids happy, enjoying, experiencing. It's also a kind of benchmark for us to see what is happening outside. So it's a moment positive.
Okay, what is your KPI for AMD and NFDP team participating in this tournament?
I don't think that KPI is the right word for us, because we are here, as I said, to gain experience. So we are here to play football, to enjoy this moment, and we don't have any KPI in terms of result. Even if I can say the result of positive, but this is not why we are here. We want to learn and to improve.
As Malaysian football fans are always eager to know about this Supermokh Cup because it involves many big teams from all over the country, all over the world, right? Like PSG, Buriram. Actually, definitely, how do you select the team participating in this tournament? For Malaysian, let's say like Ibrahim Fikri, why don't JDT Academy put into this tournament?
We have already organizing this. We have been organizing this tournament since already 5 or 6 years already. So this is not the first edition. So far we have been involving only AMD teams, but I have to say that, of course, it would have been great to have JDT here. We have been involved only in the selection of some foreign teams. And for the local teams, this is mostly the team from our program. But let's say hopefully they could join next year.
For every level of age, there are two teams, right? Cougars and Panthers. Is there any different? Maybe one is the potential team, second is the performance team. Is there any different of both teams?
No, we have 3 teams under 12. We have 3 teams under 12. We have 2 from the rest of age group. This is not a performance or not, because as you say, if we talk about performance and potential, it could take maybe a whole interview for that. But we have, of course, some teams that have been used to play together for the beginning of the season. Let's say, I don't like to say team A, team B, because it's changing every time at youth level. You have some players from the supposedly team B that will join really soon the team A, and the other way around. So this is not linear, So this is the team of the moment that has been decided with the coaches and the staff. So I guess you have seen a good level of performance from all the team, but of course, if you talk about under 13 and 14, the team A, consider A as today, or the team Panthers.
We'll see that just like yesterday, few players made some mistake, didn't score penalty. So as a youth expertise, how do you motivate the players? How do you motivate them to take this as a lesson for them to grow up?
I think you call it mistakes, but of course this is a game of mistakes. If you don't have any mistake, you don't have any goal in football. So as long as you see a goal, there is a mistake somewhere. So this is the first thing. So of course, for them you can see that in different aspects. Penalties, you will miss, you will score. If I'm not mistaken, the statistics say that you have 72 to 74% chance of scoring a penalty. So it can happen that even big players miss. So for us, this is not what is the most important. Of course, you have many parameters that you consider during the game. You have to be there to guide, to evaluate, to sometimes instruct, even if we don't like that. But most of the time, we let the players experience by themselves and learn from the situation itself, because the game is a teacher. So for us, you see, when you see one player missing a first touch, that can happen at any level. The question is not, hey, he missed the first touch. No, this is why and how can you improve that, and maybe why did you miss this first touch, and maybe what could have you done to have a better first touch. So there is a whole process behind to try to make them learning step by step, because as you know, this is a long journey for them.
Do you see that this tournament must be continued in the future, or you have some aspect to be improved?
Hopefully this tournament will continue for the future. This is not, as I told you, the first edition. We had already many editions. And today you have one thing that is somewhere saying that this is a good tournament. This is that you have teams that have been there and are coming back. Because you have to know the process. When you're from a big club, when you go back to your club, you have to report about the tournament that you have done. So which means that if they come back, it means that they have been also positively surprised, maybe because for some of them is the first first time happening for them to arrive in this region, especially in Malaysia, but which means as well that the feedback has been positive when they came back in the club. So the report has been positive, and this is something that have to make, I believe, Malaysia and the program proud.
Okay, so we are actually the number one Malaysian media social portal in Malaysia. So we are getting some question from the fans to ask to you. Okay, the first one is like they ask about the coaching staff. Most of them are very young, and some of them this is their first experience of doing coaching. What is the good thing, positive thing to have such a very young coach to be here?
I cannot say that we have only young, because we have some that are a bit older than us as well. So, for example, the people with who I'm working in my office are way older than me, and we have some here that are way younger than us. So I believe that there is of course, no age limit or whatever, or such a thing like that. You have to look for the profile and also the position that you have to fill. Because of course, if you are looking for an assistant coach of an under 13 group, you will not take a coach from Superliga, right? Yeah. So this is either someone that is known for his grassroots quality, or someone that maybe had an experience as a player and just want to switch and maybe go into coaching. So this is, and maybe you have to look also who is the head coach. When you create a staff, this is not isolated people. You have to think how can they operate together, and you need some skills that you have to match together. So you might have maybe some that are more comfortable with laptop. You have some that are more competent with the practical side. You have some on the theoretical side. You have some that got an experience as a players. So this is this all blend of abilities that can make a good staff. This is important for us.
Yeah. Okay, the next question is, our fan asks about the selection. Can you explain to our fans, our followers, how do you select all the players from under 12, under 13, and then is there any type of requirement, special requirement that you see, that you want to see in the players?
This is not a selection itself. Like, we not organize a day selection when people can come and apply and be tested in order to join MD. This is a process that carry on for 1 to 2 years for some players, which means that some players are already identified at 10, 11 years old, 12 years old. This is a long process, because so far when we arrive, we have seen that most of the selection were done during MSSM, for example. But let's say this is a national competition, MSSM, but maybe in that competition, if you operate your whole selection, you might have maybe one player that is not there because just maybe got a stomach pain, and then you will not see maybe the best player of the country. Or maybe some player has not been selected at the state level because the school didn't want or whatever. So the scouting process is something really, really important, because you can be good coach, you're not a magician. You need a potential to develop. You need a margin of improvement. So of course, this is something that has to be done properly. That's why we have created 3 years ago the scouting department, which is monitoring most of the competition in the country, but not only NFDP competitions, because they're also monitoring Supermokh, school competition, private clubs, private academies. We have some players that never play for a program in the state, but they still reach AMD. They come from school, from private clubs or whatever. So AMD is a home for any young Malaysian footballer aspiring to realize his dream.
But I have to be honest with you, because some of our followers give negative comment. They accuse there are some favoritism, cronyism in selecting the players. So can you deny all this?
I think I don't have to deny. We have heard one complaint, if I'm not mistaken, my staff.
You already noticed about this?
One complaint about one parent specifically, but I don't know, exactly who. To be honest, this is even not something that deserves an answer, because the scouting is not done by 1 or 2 people. There is a team of at least 14 Kejohanan, plus the assistant, plus some coaches, plus the technical staff. So this is, at one point, you might maybe have 10 to 20 people involved in the process. And this is not something done in one step, this is over the years. So most likely, the good information cross each other, and you see, you hear, you compare the reports, and you will see all players. But by nature, a parent is also subjective, right? We have kids, I don't know if you have, but my son is also the best in the world, not only in football, because I love him. But then you have to be totally neutral and objective. When you talk about scouting, you talk about something that is really important, because for the kids it will be a possible opportunity to realize a dream. And so far I have to say that when we see the players performing, 1, 2, 3 years later, I don't think that the scouting department did many mistakes. And then there is also a kind of education. This is important. This is not happening only in Malaysia, this is happening everywhere. So imagine, sometimes you might have some criticize if you're a fan of any club. I don't know which fan you are and which team you support, but even at professional level, the scouting is not easy, and we talk about adults. So now I ask you to imagine how it is difficult to talk about a kid that is 12 years old with all the parameters that you have to consider on the physical side, the sociological side, the psychological side. There is many things that cannot be predicted. This is an attempt to predict not the current performance, but the future progression and the future performance. So by nature, it's not 100%, and it's not. It can be sometimes subjective according to the scout, but when you compare all together, I think you can reach a kind of level of objectivity.
So after several years being in charge, how many percent from your early plan has been accomplished?
This is difficult to quantify in percentage. I have to say that what we have been asked when we reach the country and when we arrive there and before even to sign, most of it have been accomplished, but this is still a long way. This is still a long way. Sometimes I believe that to realize that Malaysian football need a bit of more humility. Because you need to realize the situation if you want to improve and correct it. So this is so important that when you talk about kids, you have to let the time for them to grow. That's just natural, There are various steps, there are various milestones that they have to reach, and it takes time. Today this program is carrying kids from 7 to 17, and if you talk about MD, this is only 13 to 17. But at 17, your development is not finished. If you consider, the rules, the FIFA rules, the UEFA rules, if you have to be considered as a former product of any trainee of any academy, you have to spend 3 years between 17 and 21 to be considered. So imagine that us here, the program is finished in 17. So this is to show you that this is still a long way. You have to be patient. You have to understand what is development. And we all have to support these kids and these coaches together. Otherwise, this is unnecessary pressure for the kids, and it will not lead to anything. But you can see that the level of the teams are reaching today in Malaysia, and we are so happy when we have people from all over the region and the world that come to say to us, hey guys, what you have done all together in Malaysia, this is crazy, this is really huge. When we go now, we can play everywhere in the world at that age, and we can. The question is not to win or lose. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. But you can look any opponent in the eyes, and today they will feel they will have a hard time, and you can compete. And this is already something important, because we don't do that with mature players or really developed and over physical players. We do that with some players also that are with a huge potential of improvement, with a huge margin. So I believe that we all have to be proud of that, and you see not only the result during the tournament, because you were asked about the result, but today we have 2 teams going to the final. We have 1 team that not make the final, but didn't lose any single game. So beat Japanese team, Chonburi, Fagiano Okayama. This is we draw against some Croatian team. So this is something that is important, because we don't do that by kicking the ball. We do that with a certain style, and which means that if we have to lose, we lose. But if we have to win, we win. But we never compromise our identity. We want to develop players. We are not here for us, we are here for the kids. And we cannot sacrifice the development in order maybe to win something.
Okay, so our final question. With all this great work of development, how do you see, how bright the future of Malaysian football you see?
I believe it's bright. Why? Because we see the talent that are coming. But then you will have to be patient. You will have to be patient, because today these kids are only 16, 17, 18 for the holders. So you have to be patient. It will not come like this. You have to be patient in order for them to continue first the development, because as I told you, this development is not finished yet. Then there is another step, which is the bridge between the academy level and the professional level, which is including many parameters. So we don't have time to discuss about that. But then after, you have to make your step to the first team to win your sport. Then you have to to gain playing time, this is a long way. Most of the players arrive at maturity maybe at 24, 25 for the earlier, and then you have some phenomena that arrive maybe younger than that. But this have to be considered like what they are, phenomena. This is not something usual. So this is really, really important. If you look at the data in all Europe, you don't have many kids at 17 or 18 years old that play in the really high level. These are the exceptional players. This is exception, but most of them reach the professional level at 20, 21, 22. So here, if you look at Malaysia, we are some of the oldest league. The average age in the league is, if I'm not mistaken, around 28, 29 years old last year. So this is something to consider, because of course there is not many space for the kids. And also we have to consider the cultural aspect. Also, we give a lot of respect to the senior. Yeah. So this is a kind of thing that will take a few years, I guess, to change. And of course, we'll see that. But I'm really positive, and enthusiastic about what is coming from Malaysian football.
Thank you so much, sir, for having us. Thank you so much.